How to attach patch pockets. Watch and learn. This is Marina from Frocks Frolics with another chapter of the Bobby Dazzler sewing course. For the whole playlist, just visit the description below or click on the info button right here. First, we're going to serge around the edges of our pockets, not all the edges on the small pockets for the back. There, we're just going to do that slanted edge of the upper back pocket. Then we can leave the side that you see now here on the side, we can leave that one open. We do the lower edge and then we do the edge here, and that's basically it. And then on the lower back pocket, we leave the side open again because that's going to be caught in the side seam, and then we're going to serge or overlock the rest. And now we're hopping on to our bib pocket. And for the bib pocket, we're going all the way around. What I tend to do is I go down the sides and around and back up the side, and then I do the top separately because it's kind of hard to go around such a sharp corner. So I take it off and then go back through. And that is now the back patch pocket. I've got two of those, and again I go down the side all the way around, up the other side, and then once I've done that on both of the pockets, I can do the top. So I take them off and then go across the top, which makes it much easier. I like working like that. It's just a little tip. There we go. So here you can see we've gone all the way around. Same on the patch pocket for the back. And on the lower back pocket, you can see the sides are left open. Here I've already folded over that little edge. I could do that now when I'm ironing the rest, but I've already done it on the overlocker because I overlocked the top edge, which wasn't really necessary. Now we've created templates for the back pocket and the bib actually. And we're going to use these templates to iron all the way around. So the edges are just folded in. So what you had to do was to cut away the seam allowance. That's your dashed line. And that gives you a really brilliant template. So here I'm going to just iron over the edges from both sides. And that's brilliant. It works really, really well. When I first started sewing, I always just did it with a seam allowance, you know, like turning it over and a tape measure, and that's really not necessary. If you do it like that, it's really quick. So sides first, and then we're doing the lower bit, which has that little dip in it here, or tip. And a really good way to get that tip very smart is to snip actually a little bit, not all the way down. You don't want this to ever come out or fray, but if you give it a tiny little snip so that the layers can lie on top of each other instead of, you know, coming up against each other and making that unsightly or harder to sew from the outside to get this really sharp corner, it works very well. Give it a good press. And now I'm going to do the top edge as well. Fold that one over and give it a good press. If you have a tailor's clapper, of course, you can put that on and that'll give it a little bit of weight and make these edges really, really crisp. I suggest you do that when you are ironing it from the outside, from the upper side, which is what I'm doing now. So turn it over. Oops. Put the other pocket on top. I've already done that one, and just check that they're both the same, and they are. Brilliant. And now I'm going to iron over the top and the lower edges of the lower back pocket. We are not doing the sides at all for this, just those two edges. But if you want to use a template, of course, go ahead, take the template out. Turn it over and give it another good ironing. Brilliant. Right, now I've done all my different pockets. I am ready to top stitch those. So I'm doing the diagonal line, I'm doing the top line of the lower back pocket, and then of course I'm doing the top lines where we have the deeper fold at the top, and they're all different distances. So the lower back pocket is just 1.2 centimeters from the edge, really. There we go. That will catch it. That's 3/8 of an inch. There we go. And then if you want to add a secondary stitch line, of course you can do that. No problem there. I use a little marking on my presser foot for that one, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Do whatever feels good for you. So maybe that's foot width from the edge, or maybe that's, you know, half a presser foot. I found my distance there and I think it's nice. So have a try and see what you think looks good. Now we're going to do the upper back pocket. The first line is stitched 1.8 centimeters from the edge, that's half an inch, and that will catch the seam allowance on the inside just. And then you use that same distance that you really liked. There we go. Lock in your stitches, and do not forget that for all your top stitching you need a long stitch. I would suggest 3.5 to 4. I've used 4 here actually. I like them when they're nice and long. 4.5 was a bit too long. Lock in your stitches. This is for the bib now, and here we go with 2.3 centimeters for the first stitching line, which is an inch, and the next stitching line is again whatever you feel like. But you should keep to the same distance every time, so you could make it a little bit smaller or a little bit wider apart, however you like. Mine, like I said, is just a little bit less than foot width from the first stitching line. I like that. It's marked on my presser foot and I just go. Lock in your stitches, cut your threads off, and we're going to the final, the patch pockets for the back. And the patch pockets for the back have the same distance as the front pockets. It's again an inch, 2.5 centimeters from the edge. So you just want to catch that. So maybe you want to be a little bit on the, you know, a little bit 2.4 maybe, just slightly less. So you absolutely make sure that you catch underneath, but it should be fine. And again, we're doing a secondary stitch of your liking next to it. I think that looks so good. Actually, I was mega pleased with how these pockets turned out. Lock in your stitches. And there we go. There they are, all done and finished, and we can now apply our pockets to the pieces. We're starting with the bib, and on the bib I wanted to add this lovely little racing car. I found that on the market here in Los Angeles, and I thought, well, that would be really nice for my brand new grandchild. Marina Brumpton, that's his name. I'm a very proud grandma now. And of course, I'm going to be making lots and lots of stuff for this little boy. And I just saw that and thought, well, that would be great. You just have to make sure it's securely on, maybe stitch all the way around it if you like, just to give it that little bit of extra security. Now we're going to pin that pocket to the bib. Take the bib, cut out the space where the pocket is, and then all you have to do is put the pocket on top and pin it on, and you have it in that perfect position and you know it's correct. And then we can take that pattern piece back off, and maybe you want to measure it. In my case, I measured it from the lower edge to the waistline just to make sure that it's correct, and on the side. And it's very easy to get that wrong. Some of you have sampled some, and they're so easy to be slightly skewed with. In fact, this is not absolutely straight on here. Anyway, the back, same thing. You cut out the pocket position, you place your pocket into that gap, pin it in, and you're done, really. That's a really good way of doing it. The other pocket, of course, you could do in the same way. I'm going to show you in a minute a slightly different way that I also really like using. Now we're going to put the lower pockets on as well. And this is super simple. Now, the lower part of the upper pocket was not folded over. We're simply slotting that in to the lower pocket. So upper pocket slots into lower pocket. Super easy. And then it needs to be aligned with the side here of the seam. And we can now fold in both of those pockets 1 centimeter and then just pin it. There's no need to iron this, it will work. And there you go. I'm just now going to pin it to my leg. There we go. Nice and straight. And then the top part of this pocket disappears underneath the patch pocket, right? So we're going to pin the patch pocket, but not too much, because of course we have to lift it up in a minute again. We are going to do the lower pockets first, top stitch those two, and then we're going to top stitch the pocket over the top. That's going to look grand. There we go. All good. And now I'm just going to show you a different method for the other leg, because it's a method I've used before and you might be familiar with. And if you're not, this is a really good method if you don't have a pocket position and you want your two pockets to be in the same place. What you do is put your pocket on right side down, exactly on the other pocket. Put your leg over the top, and obviously now the pocket is in the right position on underneath this leg, and all you have to do is pin it from this side. And the key to that would really be that you don't catch anything underneath other than that pocket. Of course, I caught it all, I don't know, I'm out of practice, but it doesn't really matter, because you can just, like, you know, loosen it again like I'm doing here and pin it again. The point is it goes in exactly the same place. So if you haven't got a pocket position on your pattern, or you've designed a pattern that wasn't even on there and you want it to be in the right position, this is a really good way of doing it. And now we're ready to go over to the sewing machine and top stitch these babies on. When you're top stitching something on, it's quite important that you pull at the beginning a little bit so that it doesn't get stuck. Mine got stuck all the time, and I forgot to pull it a little bit constantly, and I was going, oh no, I forgot again. And I've got these tiny little stitches in places which are annoying. Now the distance from the edge should be sort of 3 millimeters. When you're working with denim this kind of more structural fabric, it's not so nice if you're like right on the edge. Like if you're making a silk blouse, you would want to be, but if you're making denim, you would want to be slightly further in, but not too much. So 3 millimeters is quite good. You know, 2 is okay as well, but do not have less. Don't be like on the edge. That does not look nice with denim. And then when you get to a corner, always have the needle in the fabric, turn, and then go to the next corner, put the needle in the fabric, lift your presser foot, and turn and go up. And lock in the stitches, and then I'm going to do another stitch next to that. And all my top stitching, I now did foot width from the edge of the fabric. And so all of it is cohesive, all of it looks similar or the same. And when you look at it, you won't notice that there's different distances. And the smaller distances, which I did across the top of the pockets, will actually stand out, a nice little point of interest, maybe you could say. So foot width on all of those. Presser feet on machines are different in width. But apart from some where I've seen they are like massively wide, they're actually quite similar. So you could just go with foot width unless you have a really, really wide presser foot. I would just run a sample, like do one pocket, like top stitch anything, just fold an edge over and top stitch it on something else just to see what it looks like when you do it like that. And then find the distance that works for you and your sewing machine. Then keep to that distance every time you top stitch on these dungarees. And I've locked in my stitches, and it actually looks stunning. I loved these. I've made so many. At the point that I was filming this, I had made 7, so that this was number 7. I really enjoyed that. I've got quite addicted to it. This is not an easy thing to do, but it's definitely not something that is super hard that you can't do, where you go, oh no, it was great, but I don't want to make another one. I got really addicted, and I've already got some more cut out because there's a few bonus videos coming. So I'm securing the side here as well, plainly because I was worried that the fabric won't get caught in the seam or something like that. So I'm sewing down the side as well so that it's fixed. Again, at the corner, needle down, press a foot up, and go back up. Move the top patch pocket out of the way, and then we do our secondary stitch, and I always do my foot width, so I line that up again. And here it's always a little bit of a guessing game until you get a feeling for it as to where to turn. I think it's something you should just get into a habit of. I don't think you need to mark it necessarily, but if you're really unsure, you could of course mark it. And now I can do the top pocket because the lower stuff's all done, and we can now kind of then seal that in, fix that in that lower pocket, and you don't see the upper edge, and I think that's really nice. The first ones I did, I always forgot about it, and I was there, you know, sewing the patch pocket on and thinking, oh no, I haven't done the lower pocket. So really important to get into the habit. Start with the lower pocket, because otherwise you'll just go on autopilot and then have to unpick it again. And I've done that, I think, twice before it just, you know, becomes second nature. So go up, lock in your stitches, and I do the same again here. I'm going to do the foot width and down, needle in the fabric, down to the tip. The other thing that's worthwhile mentioning is when you think, oh no, I haven't done it quite right, and oh no, it's not like super duper even. Very often when I sew, I see all the mistakes, but once it's finished and it's together and you look at it, you won't even see it. So don't knock yourself if it's not quite perfect, because when you look at jeans you buy from the shop, I tell you what, they're not perfect either. and you don't notice it. You love your jeans just the same. So now I'm going to do the same on the other leg, which doesn't have the additional pockets on it. When I looked around for what else you could do, of course you could do all sorts. You can put like a tab on the bottom of the pocket as well. There's so many things you can do. Do have a look around what other people do and then copy their ideas and use them for your perfect dungarees. Now, one thing that I would like to point out here, that I haven't done it, but if you want to put rivets in, then this would be the time. So you finish your patch pockets and then put the rivets on, because it's very difficult to put these rivets on afterwards to get in with your clamp. So this would be a good time to do it. There are bonus videos for these dungarees, and one of them explains about the hardware, and the rivets are part of that. So check that out as well. You can use this method for any pattern that you come across. Of course, this is a fantastic method. If you want to find out more about the Bobby Dazzler dungarees, and this is the only video from the course you've seen, you can watch everything else just by going in the video description, click on the playlist, and you can watch everything from the start, including all the bonus features. Alternatively, click on that info button there, which will also take you to the playlist. And there's also a link to my website where you can purchase a pattern, and a link to my Etsy shop if you prefer to make your purchase on there. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.